hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. My two guests today need no introduction. Their reputation and their work speak for themselves. I'm talking about two powerful women who have paved their own way with their determination and grit to be one of the biggest names in the creative world. Well, without wasting any time, I want to welcome Susan CREDLE, Global Chief Creative Officer, FCB, under whose dynamic leadership FCB has transformed itself over the last few years and also won Network of the Year this year in 2021 at the Cannes Lions.
Thank you very much.
Also welcoming on this show is her Indian counterpart, SWATI BHATTACHARYA, Chief Creative Officer, FCB India, a woman who needs no introduction in the Indian context and in the Indian advertising market. She's made heads turn ever since she joined FCB in 2016. And at that time, she was the only Chief Creative Officer who was a woman. Well, that's not all. FCB India has been the most awarded Indian agency 3 years in a row. And in 2020, it won 1 gold, 3 silvers, and 4 bronzes at the Cannes Lions. Well, many thanks, ladies, for joining me right here on Brand Equity. And special thanks to you, Susan, for making it so early. I know it's 8 a.m. In the US, and thank you for doing this and gracing us with your presence. First off, many congratulations on FCB's feat globally and in India. I've been tracking the space for a while, and this is the first time we've seen FCB reach such heights. And while there's been a lot of commentary on the wins, I would really like to have a conversation with both of you on the journey and how you got there. I'm going to start with you, Susan. When you joined FCB, give me a sense of what you thought of FCB as a machine, and what were your, to-do list items to actually ensure that the wheels of creativity start turning at FCB?
Throughout my career, I've always believed that there's a DNA in agencies that sort of remains true. And especially in America, you could tell that there were certain agencies that were built on creativity and certain agencies that were built on partnerships with clients and run much more by account people. And they're both incredibly legitimate. It just depends on what kind of relationship you want to be in with your clients. And I grew up in creative shops like BBDO. I was there for 24 years. And so I've always, I've only moved twice, but I always said no to the agencies whose DNA was built on business relationships, not creative excellence or creative striving for creativity. So when I went to Leo Burnett, I knew, Leo was a creative. And so I knew there was DNA in there that believed that creativity was the heart of the agency. And FCB, as a child, or a young girl, I grew up watching some of the most important advertising in my life as a teenager was coming out of FCB. So I knew in the DNA there was creativity. And then, I had been impressed with Carter Murray, who was the CEO. When I was watching him, he did something that was quite dramatic, as he took the draft name off of Draft FCB. And it got my attention. I thought, wow, something's going on over there, because that's a big move to, I know Howard Draft, he's a dynamic individual. To say we have to declare what this agency is going to be and what's going to lead is important. And that kind of got my attention. And so when he called and said, I want you to be my global partner and let's go write this story, I thought, you know what, that's a good next chapter for me. And also, just like you mentioned with Swati, there was no global CCO that was a female at the time. And there's a point in your career where you stop working for the agency and you start working for the industry. And I stopped making personal choices for me and started making choices for the industry. And I thought, you know what, this feels like a good choice for the industry. And I'm happy to say today there are many global female CCOs. So I'm not saying I started it, but it is a message that sometimes you can make choices that are personal and also bigger than you. And I think Swati did exactly the same thing when she bravely said yes to our offer to join us on this crazy mission to try to find our creative excellence.
Let me take it to you, Swati. I think your career has changed since 2016. You're clearly in India looked at as one of the most creative professionals, in the country. And not so far back, we had 3 or 4, regular names that did the rounds for anything and everything when one wanted to talk about Indian creativity. And those names didn't change for over a decade. And you know exactly who I'm talking about. So, from the Indian advertising industry context, I don't think much push or much play was given to people who were talented, whether in terms of stature, in terms of a voice for the industry. And it was just the boys club, and I could now say an old boys club, we kept, seeing all the time. And I think media is partly to blame for it as well, because unless you hit the top title, we don't give you face time. So, for you, 2016 was, a milestone year for you. Talk to me about when you came to FCB. I know from the Indian context, FCB was not a mover shaker in India. It was an old agency. It had legacy clients, but it wasn't really in the forefront of creativity. Your entering FCB seems to have changed that perception of FCB, and clearly FCB is now, in the top list of the top 3 agencies in India when one talks of creativity. What was your big trigger to move? And secondly, what did you notice that needed to be changed within the agency in terms of culture, in terms of creativity, in terms of just pushing the envelope?
Obviously when Susan, asked me to take this job, I wasn't prepared. And and I was also so guilty of the fact that, does she even know my work,
Sure.
And did I, like, how it is, you're okay with random luck, but not like a jackpot like this, and I failed, Susan would fail. And that's another big crutch to carry. But, the thing that I've learned from this woman, and I think that is culture making, is that you are given an ecosystem to survive and to bloom, So what happened is that first year, when I was going for these global meetings, I was practically like a trainee CCO, learning from each one of them, and I didn't feel like the odd one out. See, when there was not such a big deal made about, this is a gender ticket. It was all that you take your time, you get comfortable, but these are your shoes. I've got them for you, and I know you will fit into them, So that was obviously, and like I was telling you, that 2016, a lot of this intersectionality between my life, meeting her, the work that I used to do, the work that I felt when I acquired a voice, the work that it became, everything. It's just a whole lot of crisscross. And now I'm here. But I'll always be very aware of the fact that she opened the door, I entered the room, and now I have to open the door. Only then this legacy really lives on.
I think it's really important too that Swati and I met at the Clios, and she was on a jury, not my jury, but I credit a lot of these, and I think Nicole at the Clios was a trailblazer of saying that she would do 50-50 juries. And I think one of the reasons we only heard about certain people for decades is because those were the people that were always on the juries. And so your circle never got bigger. If that 50-50 jury hadn't been put in place, I don't think I would have met Swati, because the juries wouldn't have opened up. And where I got interested in Swati was when we were having cocktails and I was listening to her talk. And I was like, how does someone speak like this? How everything she says is creative. I mean, it's like, she doesn't have to sit down to write. She just writes in the world. And because FCB didn't have the best reputation in India, I thought I can take a chance. This is a chance, which is like, I can see if that voice that I heard just speaking to random people could actually live in our world. And I can take that chance. And I think that that's an important thing for leaders. Is that so many times I hear leaders say, well, their portfolio wasn't good enough, or they didn't have enough experience or whatever. It's like, take more chances. I would never want to hire a sure thing if I could go back and do it over again. I liked that we saw something in Swati, and also Rohit loved her. And I knew if those two already knew each other and cared about each other, which is also another important part of success, is your business partner and your creative partner care for each other and have the same ambition. Wow, success is knocking on the door. So those were two things, but do take chances, and don't look for the perfect resume. Look for the perfect human being. And Swati has over delivered on everything I thought she would do.
Thank you. The other one thing I want to talk about is, in India, we were also so scared of the word global. We used to get defensive about it. Oh, our culture, they won't get this, they won't get that. And, in my earlier agency, just how to package it to global used to be something that we never knew how to do it, and take something as local culture, like Sindoor Kehla, which I would find it difficult to even explain to North Indians and South Indians because it's so Bengali. And now look at it, because when a system comes to help you, comes to take that same thing and tell you how to take it around the world, and now, like, whether it's Germany, Australia, everybody knows how to say Sindoor Kehla, everybody knows, like those terms have traveled all around the world.
Let me take a cue from that, Swati, and put a question to you, Susan. Obviously FCP as a network had to have seen a transformational culture for it to have, become what it is today in terms of its creative reputation. What was it that you did slowly and steadily within the entire network to ensure the feeling of such joy that I can see from Swati? I don't think any CCO talks so fondly of their global CCO or of the headquarters. It's always a bit intimidating. But Swati's been pretty vocal even in her social media posts, and the kind of love and joy. And I've spoken to other industry leaders who are women, and they were like, she's just so lucky. She's so lucky, and at least one of us lucked out. So that's the kind of vibe we get, when we talk about FCB and the culture here. So what were those key pillars that you put into place to ensure this kind of love, inclusivity, diversity, happiness?
I mean, you never know if it's going to work. I mean, it's only when you look back and you're like, oh, we were really smart. But there were some basic principles, which is we are a small global agency. And I had grown up in bigger global agencies, and their attitude, and it wasn't wrong, which was healthy competition within the organization. We decided that wasn't going to work. We decided that we were going to be generous to each other. And we took on if one of us wins, we all win. So the best thing to do is help each other. So the first thing we did is our Global Creative Council. It used to be you had to earn the right to be on it. We were like, that's crazy, because the people that need to be on it the most are the people that aren't earning the right, because they're not learning. And it was like this Glenn Ross, David Mamet moment, where it's like, you can't learn because you aren't good enough. And then the people that are good enough are like, keep learning so you can get better. I was like, we were all like, this makes no sense. We're like, everybody come. And in fact, the people that haven't won anything or haven't done anything that you're really proud of, come and be here with more intensity. And then the goal was to design the meeting so that we all help each other with each other's work. We help each other define what's the best work. We become a group of people that are at the top of their game, helping each other. So we learn from each other. And I didn't know if it would work, because we all have ego, and we're all, we do have built, that's how we got here, is we're competitive. But I think once people got a taste of it and realized that it is true, they became more generous. And so you see people truly helping each other, calling each other around the world. A designer in Chicago, like Kevin Grady, will say, I got this, I'll help you, call me. So we did this together. And I think that was the first thing. The second thing is that we have a common language about what good work is. And it's called the 4-5-6. We don't hit it every day, but I think that by having this common language of we want to do work that makes people lean in, if that same work can ask people to participate in it, and if it can build brand equity at the same time, that's our best day. That's our best idea. And it's taken the first year, I think a lot of people were rolling their eyes and saying, this is stupid. It's too rigorous. It's too specific. It's really not. I mean, work that people are interested in, that want to participate, and it builds brand value. I mean, it's kind of hard to argue that you wouldn't want to do that on your best day. So, but we were very clear. And I think clear ambition is important. And then, by the way, every person in the agency, from the receptionist to the CEO, believes in this. So we don't silo our departments on our best day. On our best day, everybody works for the work. And then we stopped working for awards. We talk about awards as far as case studies and how to do those, where, we don't dismiss them, but as Swati probably has said, it's part of the journey. It's not the destination. We do not sit down and think about how to win awards. We think about how to do great 4-5-6 work. Our biggest ambition is to make our client famous.
I wanted to tell Sonali that, where these 4, 5, 6 are like really like beautifully sculpted little numbers, and the joy you feel about that 4. And I think the fact is, even if that 4 never wins anything in Cannes, it makes its place next to the Cannes winner on our website, So on one level, you can see your work, which, and that's what Susan also keeps talking, the validation is great, but your own desire for it is greater because you spend so much time with it. And, there are so much, there's so many, the Horlicks quota work, which didn't win in Cannes, but it's there on the website,
I think that's a very important piece of work, because when we judged it within our organization, it did not rise up to the 4. And we have debate afterwards of, the work. And Swati came back and said, I don't understand why you all don't think this is a provocative piece of work that should be out in the world. And by the time she made a case for it, most people had come around. And I think it took that haute couture kind of snobbiness of looking at advertising in this very, sometimes snobby way, versus realizing the power of what this piece did for the client, for the business, and for the country. And in fact, one of our New York CCOs, who had been like, it's okay, I think it's a 3 or whatever, he let me know the next week. He said, okay, after we talked about that work, I was going to IKEA, and I grabbed my daughter and I said, let's go. We're going to go buy some furniture and we're going to put it together. And he said, I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't seen that piece of work. And he goes, I'm a jerk, because I just was looking at it through a Western guy lens, and it actually was very powerful. So it's just important that we make room for that kind of work to be celebrated within our company. And if we were only working for awards, I don't think it would have been as celebrated within FCB. So I'm proud of that there's room for all sorts of interesting ways of looking at work.
The website is a living, breathing testament to this kind of, how we look at work, what we value, how important is,
So, Swati, you've had a long innings at Wunderman Thompson, as they call it today. And you have observed not just within the agency, but even, you've been around for a while, everybody who's somebody in the industry, and you've seen how CCOs function. How do you think, when it was your turn to take over, the supreme reign of creativity for an agency, what were your learnings of what should be left behind and unlearned, and what you should do to make an effective CCO?
So, to tell you, for me, it was personal. For the first time, I felt I'm getting support and strength from the top. and it was important that some work comes out, and I didn't want to make the CCO thing a performative thing, because that's not me. I don't know how to do that. I am like what I am, and I'll always be. So I couldn't do that, like I can't do that stuff, like even to ask a client out to have a drink, or like, so I don't have those skills. And I never felt it from Susan or Carter that, now you have to behave like a CCO. So I practically, like, I am what I am. And I also, like, I feel, one shouldn't have their ego entangled with their designation, because once that goes, then you are like, what am I? So I just like to be Swati. And I the thing that matters to me is that we rally around work. When you rally around power, I don't know what kind of intimacy is born out of that. Because, so, I mean, here I've got like a global CEO who comes to spend some time with my mom when he's in Delhi. Those are the things I'm witnessing. They're happening to me. And that tells me that power is not like, having a little evening at the Taj with Carter and like, so I don't know. It's like, it's all like a mishmash family. So I don't know.
Right. So you're saying that, as now a creative leader, and all creatives reporting into you, you're not bearing your title very heavily or very seriously.
No, I mean, they are dealing with the human, and the human is also dealing with them. I mean, this is, advertising can't become like that. Advertising is flat. And,
is it really?
Yes, it is, because it is all about ideas. And on that day, when the trainee has a better idea than you know how to shut up. And then you say, okay, let's go with hers. I think what she's saying is better. And imagine if you brought power in it, you'll just create more heartache for yourself. So I think, we're all like work in progress creatives. But,
yeah. I think that we try to practice that the higher up you go, the more you start working for the people below.
I have to bring this up, Susan. 2020 has been, a catastrophic year for most industries, also for the advertising industry, and while we are seeing some shoots of revival, we're not really sure if, the growth is going to be, like we desire, because it's so, we have a second wave, we have a third wave, there are lockdowns, clients are uncertain. Having said that, and I'm not sure if this is accurate, but, my research tells me that FCB actually did very well in 2020 as a network, and actually reported growth. I'm very curious to know how that happened. And I believe you also, got on, a host of new clients onto your client roster. So how did that work? What was so differentiated about your strategy?
Well, I think that creativity thrives in crisis, and creative people thrive in crisis because they're problems to solve. And I think our clients recognized that we had talent that could actually help them through this, and fast. We not only can strategically, come with interesting thinking, but when we can do something with it, we can make stuff. And that, I think, was a wake-up call for a lot of our clients. And I have found in the last year, we have been able to reintroduce our relationship as much more of a partner than a vendor. And I think in that partnership, it's opened up more doors for more investment. We've had incredible organic growth, which I think is one of my favorites, because it means the people that work with you every day believe in what you're doing and want to do more with you. We also, we have a phrase that we're kind of introducing in the last year, which is how to get lucky more often, which is that we've had incredible success. But what happens is I started hearing like 3 years ago, clients saying, well, that was great, but how do I know you can do it for us? And so what we've done is every time we have success, I sit with Carter and Vita and Nigel and Shelly, all these people that probably are in the planning strategic piece. And we look at how we got here and how we can get there more often. And so we're developing tools that I think get us to better 4, 5, 6 work more often. And so another saying that Swati hasn't heard this one yet, but it's coming to the GCC, which is get smart and then get stupid. I really believe that if we can get smarter as marketers, we know how to do it. We just have to do it with intent, that then we can go have fun, because the smarter we are up at the front, then the more crazy creative we put on that smart, we're just going to be outrageously brilliant. So, it's intentional. I mean, what we're doing with intent. And I think that's important versus saying, wow, we've got a lot of mercurial creatives that seem to just always have the right answer or do something crazy and it seems to be landing. And I don't know if this is, so far it's working out nicely and I don't want it to sound like process, but I do think thinking before you create is powerful. And I think our clients are seeing us, we can get better and better, but our clients are seeing that we are not just working to do crazy creative work. We're actually working to do work that will help them. And once they believe that the creative is built on strong strategic thinking, they come along.
Swati, my question to you is, actually it's to both of you. There's so much talk of, ever since I have joined the profession, and I've been around for a while, we've been talking about, why aren't more women on top? In fact, why are there no women on top? And this commentary and this grand debate has taken place for, I don't know, I mean, the conversation, it's always in fashion. I can do the same conversation 2 years from now and it will still be a hot topic, right? We're not really moving the needle. Having said that, there are a few aberrations, like Swati is an aberration. You are an aberration because you started the trend. But do you see, due to this constant conversation we're having, there is the diversity tick, there is, more inclusivity, all of that. Do you see more women being given the opportunity, being recognized for their talent, just being gender agnostic, and if you're good enough, doesn't matter if you're male, female, gender fluid, whatever you are you getting more, acceptance? So you can talk to me about the global context, and Swati, you're the best person to talk about the Indian context.
In the Indian context, just like when Susan said that she was the first global CCO, but I know that in these 5 years since 2016, there have been a lot more women. But that is also still, like, the women are really missing from that whole middle segment, because I think in advertising, they are there in the,
lower rung.
Like a copywriter, senior copywriter. And I think we lose a whole lot of them during that transition time, whether it's motherhood and then, like, agencies have to learn. And now look at it, like, I feel what this virus has taught us, what the virus made these big companies do, they weren't ready to do that for women, really good employees. Because, it's like, how can we let a ECDB work for home for, I know that there are people, like, I know, like, now there's Kenaz, there's Ashwini, there's like Shagun Seda. There've been so many women who, are at their top of their game now. But I do feel that now we have to use our powers to just make that one big transition moment, better. And then there would be more, of course. But yes, the numbers are very poor.
I think you're being very generous with your response.
Yeah. What would I say about, I feel the same thing in politics. I feel the same thing in tech. So I just don't want to beat up the advertising industry, but
but why not, Swati? Advertising is supposed to be cooler, cutting edge, much more ahead of the curve compared to the others. The others are looked at as traditional industries. Women here are supposed to be looked at as equal players. I mean, look at our ads. They stream all of it all the time, and look at the winners at Cannes. But unfortunately, the message that is preached is not practiced at home.
Yes, but that also, like Susan keeps talking about the same thing, that why do people say, where are the women? And this is what it's, oh, we don't have any in the office on this level. So what do I do? But the problem behind that invisibility is because you haven't even realized when you've lost them on a copywriter level or a junior copywriter level.
Okay, fair enough. So let me counter that. I get your point. In middle management, we lose a lot of women because of what women have to do and what society expects us to do. Fair enough. But let's look at some cases such as yourself. There's Anuja. There have been so many good women who have not been given their due. Right? Why did you have to wait till 2016 till somebody punted on you?
The thing is, but I would still say that Walter Thompson, like the baby years, that agency was my big support. And that is why maybe I didn't even care about things like promotions and all, because my children have slept on the boardroom. They've come with me for international meetings. They were like, I had a divorce. JWT was practically being like another parent to my kids. So I thought all those other things that they're not doing for me, and that's my bad, because I was just so glad that I had
I think that's very important. I think you have to redefine your vision, and especially this new generation of women that are coming up as leaders. I never saw myself as a CCO, ever. I remember writing a short story about my life at BBDO, and it's the biggest vision I could get was the corner office. I knew I could get to the corner office, but I never in that story ran the agency or started an agency or whatever. It just was not in my vision. And I think you have to set your vision bigger. I think it is a time that women have to stop saying, this is as far as I can see myself going. Dream to the top. And also I told some women several years ago, you have to see it to be it at Cannes. I was looking at them and I saw myself and I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are in the hardest part of your career, because there's about 10 years I don't know in any other career, but I imagine it's the same, where you feel all of the responsibility and you have none of the power. And it is horrific. Like, you cannot make a plan in your social life. You cannot say that, and you feel no control, but everybody's looking at you to solve every problem. And I wanted to say, it doesn't stay like that, because if you can get through that and get the power so that your calendar is the first priority, it gets really good. And then it becomes this joyful thing of, you've got support behind you, you've got support in front of you, and you've got control right beside you. And that's the goal, is to get control, of your career and your life. And it does happen, and it can happen. But I think when you're in the middle of this thing, and I felt it, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't have I don't have any control of anything. And you do find it. And I think that's the problem, is I think you get in this middle part of your career, which is the hardest, and you think this is it forever. And I think Swati brings up a great point about COVID, which is that this working from anywhere is going to help, I think, a lot of women be able to say yes and stay in. And then the other thing is that this diversity issue is like gardening. You're never set. It's never done. We just had an opening in San Francisco, and it was like, we have to really think about who's going to fill it. And I'm thrilled to say we have an incredible human being joining this week, and and it's because we can do work from anywhere. And it wouldn't have happened without work from anywhere. So I think this is opening up a huge opportunity to be able to embrace diversity on a whole nother level because of the flexibility of where talent and work can happen.
Yeah. Susan, I'm so curious to ask you, when you said, you never ever thought of yourself as a global CCO, that was never your ambition. You couldn't even think it. When did that transition occur? When you
well, this
when
is
you got it?
No, I think when Mark Tutzel called, I met again these awards juries. Get on juries. If you want to see what's possible. So I was on a Andy's jury in Mexico, and I met Mark Tutzel at Leo Burnett, and we argued over everything. I thought that man must hate me, because every time he would go, I love it, I'd be like, I don't like it so much, and about 2 weeks after, he called and he said, hey, I'm looking for a CCO for our Chicago office. Will you take it? And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? What? I'd never thought about it. And then I had women friends who, I stalled because I loved BBDO. I absolutely adored BBDO. I've been there 24 years. And they said, Susan, do it for the women. You got to do it for the women. And I was like, all right. And my husband and I ended up not having children. And I was like, Joe, we don't really have, it's not much of a chance. Let's keep our New York apartment. And let's go out to Chicago and see what we can do. And that was the start. And then the same thing with Carter, he called me and said, you're my first choice. Will you do this? And at the time, some stuff was happening at Leo that I felt I wasn't going to be able to give as much as I had given the first 6 years. I just didn't think I was the right person to take them to the next level. And I could have, but I didn't see that it was an extraordinary, I didn't know what else I could do for them. And so I took the call, met Carter, found him hilarious and smart at the same time. And I thought this person would be fun to go to work with every day. And again, I'm at that wonderful moment in my career where I don't need to work. I choose to work. And so I can take chances. And I was like, let's do this one. And it's been a joy. But my point is, they called me. And why wasn't I calling them?
Sure.
And really interesting, because women, most of my friends that have done well, a man told them they were better than they thought.
Sure.
They were.
Very powerful statement. Yeah.
And it is amazing. So my creative worldwide partner is joining Dentsu to be the global CCO. And so that position, and I don't know if we'll fill it or not. It's something that I'm going to ask the CCOs to guide me in the decision of what should we do. But there have been people that have reached out as soon as they heard the news and said, hey, maybe we should chat, maybe we should talk. Sounds like something I might be interested in. Not one female.
Wow.
Yeah. It's the same.
So we have a responsibility to be present and say, look over here, raise my hand, I'm interested. And we need to do more of that versus waiting to be called. And that the waiting to be called makes you the exception. Raising your hand makes you active. So
true. So, I was the Seed Meet ambassador and I couldn't go there, but, we do these talks like this with the girls, and I had this theme because something that I haven't been able to do it for myself, which was bring your own chair, to be able to open the door, drag the chair and say, I'm here. Because why? Susan is like the most romantic thing that's happened to me. This was like my big romantic dream, that somebody would meet me and this is how it would happen, where it's for career. But the same thing, you always wanting somebody to come and, and I guess now the girls have to take it a step forward, where it's like, I hope like through this whole love for selfies, you that self, you put yourself out there and you say, hey, listen, I think I'll be good for that,
And I am seeing it more and more in younger people. I've had some really nice chats with some young women because fortunately a lot of people, say, hey, call Susan, maybe she's worth chatting to. And so I'm getting to meet all these really cool young women that I'm so excited that they're in our industry, and I want them to stay excited about being in the industry. So I'm feeling it, feeling this, they're starting to show up, and they've got confidence. They know who they are. They're not afraid of their ambition. And so I'm excited.
Sure. Swati, just like I asked Susan, did you ever think you'd ever become CCO one day? Did you have that in your vision?
I didn't have it at all. In fact, even when I became the national creative director that was the first time JWT was kind of giving a position, but because it was three of us together, it was like you came away with the feeling, like even when the champagne was being opened, that collectively you are good enough to be that one thing, So, and this, like how you grow up in an organization is a lot like parenting, right? And so you learn to value some things, but it also comes at the cost of not valuing yourself, Now I've become so ballsy and I give these talks and I'm like, it's like all coming from, now it's like I think I've developed that thing of not being constantly a debutante. I've finally I'm 52 now. So obviously I want my girls and all the other young girls to do this much earlier.
Sure. Last question before I let you ladies go is that, we've seen so much work, which talks about feminism, which talks about, woman power, girl power. And it almost seems like brands are being opportunistic and, just latching on, around a movement. For instance, in India right now, I mean, we seem to be doing all right. If you look at our own Olympic standards compared to our last Olympic performance, we're doing slightly better. And the women are doing far better than the men, right? The story of the Indian Olympics as a group is that the women are outperforming the men. And so you'd see a lot of brands just attaching themselves, of course, politicians too, but we're not discussing them. Brands attaching themselves to all the women athletes, talking about Nari Shakti, which is woman power in Hindi, and it just seems very, very fake and opportunistic for a layman like me who's observing. What do women who are in the industry or professionals who are in the industry feel about this?
Susan, I'll just take this. It's important that your brand has a gaze which seems honest. You suddenly just after Olympics can't feel for women and go back to feeling for men. And I think, and I think this need for a platform idea is that if you, because then, it's your brand can take, if the gaze is coming from the right place and is strategic, you can go from one thing to another. But you're only opportunistic when you come alive for that and then you disappear, right? Because even now, even while judging advertising, whether you're judging for an award show or you're sitting in your office, things have gone beyond awareness. Things have gone beyond making you feel guilty, Things have gone beyond, no, don't give me an idea. The only job is to make me cry. Either bring out the activist in me that I look at this and I take up the fight, or make it something that changes things or changes laws, or it changes mindset the way Shidul Kala did. Like now, Times of India can go to sleep on that. But we still know what it's done for Bengali women. It's there. So it's so much like human beings, like, in the party who is who's just being performative and just, and someone who's having a conversation with you where there's radical listening, where there's somebody, it's the same thing with brands.
I ask this question because I see so much hypocrisy, because if every brand today is latching on to, an Olympic athlete, woman Olympic athlete who's done well, you can't just make an ad brand campaign featuring her and talking about how great women are and not have that mirror within your organization, right? So you need to first practice. So how many women are actually on the board? How many women CEOs do we have? Are you nurturing that kind of culture within your organization? Then you do a campaign like that. I get it. You're walking the talk.
Sonali, that is like, who will you talk to? Who will, in the sense, who are, we know there is a problem with us as human beings, it's like, there's these little things, practice what you post, like what you're writing on social media. Are you that? But to tell you frankly, even as a short-term goal, if a client of mine wants to spend some money on a woman athlete, and we know what these athletes have gone through, inside my heart, whether it's not, I just like that there's some money going to these women, that as a short-term girl, I'm not going to,
I would say to brands, the question is, the work that you're putting out there around these events or these successes is, do you just look like someone in a big stadium applauding, which means that you're lost? And it's not bad to stand up and clap. But you're just one of,
Many.
A huge audience. Well, there's no audience this year, but anyways, but that's what it feels like. It's like, yay. And that in our world, we would say that's kind of either invisible or just nice. So the question is, as a brand, and maybe it's even to say, women win. That's why we're recruiting more women for our board. Thank you for showing us. There. You look at what if this happened and you want to celebrate it? How can you celebrate it authentically or with a mission? And the mission might be internal. So I think that's what we need to ask is like, is it a superficial or is it an authentic? Moment that you learned from, you want to celebrate, you want to make the next time more possible, but you have to look for something that's more interesting than bravo.
Sure, absolutely, very well said. Last question, and I promise, did you guys expect to win Network of the Year at the Cannes Lions?
Isn't that you?
In fact, last fall, I think Fred said, maybe we cannot enter anything. And we'll just say that because of COVID, we're just going to take a pass. And I was like, don't worry. We said we don't work for awards. If that's the attitude we're going to have, is we're afraid to enter because we're afraid we don't have anything or not enough, then we've just contradicted our whole point. Let's just stick together. Let's see what happens and we move forward. And, if COVID is a creative killer, then every agency's under the same duress. So let's don't focus on it. And then, we meet in the fall as a council and we looked at all the work and we identified like 10 really beautiful things that we thought were worthy of attention and polish. And we got to work, and it really is, what we've said since 2016, the only way at our size that we have a chance of winning something like this is that if our top agencies all deliver something beautiful in the same year. And that's what happened. It wasn't just one great agency. It wasn't just one great brand. It was across the board in different disciplines. Everybody tended to bring something and the math just added up. But no, I think at the one show we started going, this is getting interesting. The stuff that we thought was good, the industry's saying is good. And by the time we turned to Cannes, it was like, okay, this, I don't get it. I don't count numbers. I don't watch the numbers. It's too nerve-wracking. So I like it to be a surprise.
And what a surprise it's been.
Yeah.
Many thanks for both of you. Many thanks for, for gracing me with your presence, talking to me candidly about your individual stories and career paths, and also more importantly, giving a powerful message to women of the industry. And I hope they take heed of the words that have been said today. More power to you, Susan, and to you, Swati, and hopefully FCB is just beginning their big innings as we go forward. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, great to see you, Swati. What a great visit. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.